So the master planning process has been really going on for well over a decade, and it has been really a very community involved process. There have been countless community meetings, and community finds Kokee to be one of the unique and special, really sacred areas of our island. And so they've been really engaged in terms of being part of the planning process. Really great turnouts. I remember a meeting we had at the War Memorial Center in Lihui, where I think there was over 600 people that turned out for that. Many public hearings and meetings of over 100 each. And what came out of that was a legislatively appointed group called Kokee State Park Advisory Council. And that was formed during the legislative season of 2008, and our first meetings were in 2009. I was appointed by Senator Hoosier to that council, and then subsequently reappointed by Governor Abercrombie. So I'm on my second term there. So that council has been, one of its mandates was to work with the state to revise the master plan that the state and their consultant had prepared, to bring it more into a form or into a plan that was consistent with community values and testimony over the years. And so it's been quite a long process, and it's great that we have finally reached the end of that.
How much revision was necessary to achieve that goal?
You know, actually quite a bit, starting from the version we inherited, which initially, if you can imagine, up at Kanaloa Hulu Hulu, which is often called the Meadow, where the museum is. Initial plans had a small hotel there, kind of on I think the concept was like Volcano House, and but there was a lot of commercialization of the park with vendors and concessionaires at the major lookouts, and lots of signage, and many of the community members really wanted to see Kokee undeveloped. And so we had to find this middle ground between the Division of State Parks vision and dream, of which I think many aspects of it were really commendable, to have a park that's more kind of on lines with what you see in national parks, with really professional staff, better resource management, better interpretive facilities, especially the interpretation at the lookouts, better parking, safe. So it was really a plan that raised the bar quite high. And I think that initially the state felt the only way they would probably be able to fund a lot of that was through additional revenue generation. So the most controversial part of the entire master plan, and the thing we've received most testimony on, and the one aspect of the plan that we did not revise, was an entry station that will generate revenue for the park. And the state compromised on many of the others, including some of the concessionaires and the removal of the hotel, but they felt that it was critical that they maintain the ability to generate revenue there. So at the end, the community and the advisory council rather, and state parks, we agreed to disagree on the entry station, and the council passed it on. One of the concerns the council had over that issue was it requires the Division of State Parks to take over several miles of roadway within the park, and to maintain the roads in the park has always been an issue. What you saw in the last couple of days when you're up there is really good because it was repaved, but for 25 years it was in really, really bad disrepair. And obviously it's contingent upon DLNR getting dedicated funding from a fund to maintain the roads. Our concern is that in tight years, the legislature grabs all the money. And so our hope is that if the state does put that entry station in, that they'll consider moving it further up on the mountain to minimize the amount of roads that they'll be responsible for. Kokee is one of the few parks that already generates enough revenue because of the leasehold cabins inside the park. And so the community felt, why do we need more revenue? And the reality is the state has many state parks that will never be able to generate any revenue. And so the ideas that the state was promoting was to take the parks that could generate revenue and to use them to help underwrite maintenance at other parks. The community felt that was kind of like a black hole that was going to suck money away from, basically using our parks as a, as an extractive resource and to support properties elsewhere. One of the proposals we put forward was could that money from Kokee simply stay on the island to take care of Polihali and Wailua and other parks that are not generating revenue here. But at the end, it's not the council's prerogative to determine how that money is collected and used. So, but that was a really important point in the whole discussion. It is technically the Waimea Canyon and Kokee State Parks Master Plan, so it does include both of those. They're absolutely linked together, and the drive up along the canyon is really what draws many of the people up the mountain, and so yes, they're absolutely linked together. DLNR has a hierarchical system in place in terms of resource management, whereas the first and highest priority for DLNR in land management is the resource itself, and is to care for and sustain and perpetuate that resource. Second is public recreational use, and public recreational use is allowed if it doesn't degrade that resource. And then the third hierarchical level is commercial use, and commercial use is only allowed if it doesn't negatively impact the public recreational use or the stewardship of the resource itself. And that is actually really reflective of that proverb, because if you really take that into its core and essence, we are looking to the management and stewardship of the land first as our highest and most important priority. And in fact, the council has really held to that tenet in their review of the master plan.